All right, today I want to talk about some of the biggest mistakes that you can make that can push your ex away forever. Now, the mistakes that I'm going to be talking about here are actually taken directly not from breakups that we've had in our private Facebook support group, but rather breakups that I have had personally in my life and actually my wife had personally in her life. I thought we'd keep it kind of close to home today because a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about today are personal stories that we have all experienced, both me and my wife, going through breakups. Because I thought it'd be kind of fun to get not only the male perspective, but also the female perspective about some of the biggest mistakes that you can make. So without further ado, let's look at the 5 biggest mistakes that you can make that can push your ex away forever. Mistake number 1, you are excessively needy. All right, so the first thing I did when I was planning this video out was I went to my wife and said, help me. I am out of ideas. I want something new to talk about. This seems like an interesting topic. Can you give me an idea of something one of your exes did that turned you off completely and made you say, I'm never getting back with this person? And here was the interesting type of behavior, because it wasn't something that the ex did specifically after the breakup. It was more him doing things that made her reminded of the fact that he was excessively needy. So what do I mean by that? Well, he had this really weird tendency throughout the relationship to follow her around and act extremely insecure in certain behaviors, to the point where she would literally go to the bathroom and he would knock on the bathroom and say, what are you doing in there? What are you doing in there? Or why did you take your phone in there? Almost implying like, hey, who are you texting? And it really turned her off. So after the breakup, when he was essentially trying to get her back, there would be subtle flashes of this behavior again. And ultimately, what this boils down to on a psychological perspective is anxious, needy, insecure behavior. So we're all familiar with anxious style attachments, basically people who are extremely needy after a breakup. Well, anytime that you engage in this type of needy behavior, the reason it's such a big mistake is it reminds your ex of all the times you were needy and insecure in your relationship. And that's not what you want them to be thinking about. Mistake number 2, you embarrass your ex in front of their friends. So there's a lot of different ways that this can go, but basically, let's say there's an embarrassing feature, or your ex knows an embarrassing feature about you. So this, for example, happened to me. I was dating a girl and then we broke up, but we decided to remain friends. Well, I happened to invite her out to a beach sort of get together. I don't know, just get together during spring break, right? So it was just me, my best friend, and a couple of other dudes and their girlfriends, and I was going solo, so I said, hey, would you like to show up? Almost implying like, hey, we're just friends, but I need someone to show up. And so she said, cool, right? And so we were on the beach, right? And she started, we were all kind of in a get together, we're all talking to each other, and she made a couple of statements about me that just was like, I can't believe you said that. So one of the things that she said at the time was, yeah, Chris, he needs to lose some weight, or he needs to lose a little bit of pounds. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, what the heck? I come to find out she was just trying to embarrass me in front of all of my friends. And what's really cool about the people that I was with is they're like, no, he doesn't. What are you talking about? And it made her look kind of ridiculous, but it really made me be like, I am never going to talk to this person ever again. So that's obviously a big mistake. Mistake number 3, dating someone that was an issue in the relationship. My very first relationship was with a girl who was extremely nice and sweet, but had a few immature aspects about her. Now, I am not sitting here and claiming like I was the shining knight of maturity at that time. I'm 18 years old. I am not a mature person at all. I am just a little brat that I would just want to kick in the butt and say, how dare you do that? I wasn't at fault for the breakup entirely. So as I'm dating this person, my very first girlfriend ever, she takes me aside one day. I took her out on a date and we went and got ice cream. And it was one of those ice cream places where you could literally sit down and talk. So we get our ice creams, we're talking. I'm enjoying my little vanilla ice cream cone. And she puts her hand on my hand. And I thought, ooh, this is nice. And she says the following, now I don't want you to get jealous. And anytime a girl starts off a conversation by saying that, it's not usually going to be a good thing. So she says, I don't want you to get jealous, Chris. But I've been texting a guy that I had a huge crush on before we dated, and I just wanted to let you know that I was texting him so that you're not jealous if you hear anything. And I'm like, okay, Well, fast forward later, after the breakup goes down a couple of months later, I come to find out through the grapevine that she literally is dating this guy now. So let this be a lesson to you. If you're sitting there and thinking, oh, you know what, I'm going to date this guy to make my ex jealous even though I want my ex back, usually that's not a good sign, especially if they knew about this guy in the middle of a relationship with you. Mistake number 4, having your family fight your battles. Now this is very, very controversial. So what I'm about to say here is super specific to the individual situation. But here's my story. All right, so I'm talking about me a lot. I'm sort of opening up and letting you know all the bad breakups. So there was a specific time that very first girlfriend that I had, that story I just told about the ice cream and the jealousy thing, that girl, at the time in high school, you would write each other notes, right? And the two of us got into a fight throughout school, something probably related to that guy if I'm thinking back, but that's okay. So we're literally writing notes to each other in school and kind of fighting about this thing. And I literally say to her, you know what? I forgive you. I wrote this in a note, right? And so she must have been at her home reading this note and left it out on her bed. And her dad and mom picked it up. And their logic was, why would you need to forgive her at all? She didn't do anything wrong. I'm coming at it from the perspective of like, well, she told me she had a crush on this guy and she's flirting with this guy and I've heard she's flirting with this guy and I just got into a fight about it with her. So her dad, so I call her one day, right? After this all goes down. So he finds this note that I had said, I forgive you, and I don't know it. So I call her up on our nightly calls and he picks up the phone. That was an interesting shock. So he picks up the phone and says, I want to see you right now. Get down here. And to my credit, I actually went. I was courageous enough to go. So I went, and he's out there on his lawnmower riding around. And I literally get out the car, and he walks up to me, and he has this note. He says, how dare you? There's no way you should be forgiving my little girl. She didn't do anything wrong. And I said, I don't know what this is about, sir, but can I see the note? And he says, no, and he puts the note in his pocket. How, you can't see that note. And then says, you know what? You're not going to talk to her anymore. In fact, the only time you're going to talk to her or go on a date with her is when I say. So you just wait because we'll be calling you. And then he gets on his lawnmower and I get in my car and we drive away. We broke up a month afterwards. So eventually the call did come, but it was just like the relationship after that point, it was just like it ruined. And the reason I'm bringing this up is even though that story happened in the middle of a relationship and it was a high school relationship, so it's not super applicable, I see a lot of times after a breakup when you're going through pain, your friends and family want to fight for you. But it is a massive turnoff because oftentimes your ex will sit there and think, what, you can't fight your own battles? And I think this can be a controversial thing because in some cases I think it is a good thing to have your friends and family be there to protect you. But maybe if you're trying to get that ex back, it might be a good idea to put them in check and say, you know what, I can defend myself. Mistake number 5, buying their love to get them back can come off as really creepy. And finally we end at the big one. Buying your ex a gift, thinking this is enough to make them want to come back to me. Almost always there's a reason that we never advise our clients to buy their exes flowers or gifts after a breakup. Why? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The first one is it can come off as really creepy, but also it shows them how much you're obsessing about them to the point where you're willing to buy them a gift. I also think it's a weird way of rewarding bad behavior. So literally think of it like this. Let's say that you have a dog and the dog is peeing on the floor. Well, if you see your dog pee on the floor and immediately run over to the dog and say, hey, here's a treat, you are really reinforcing that dog to continue peeing on the floor because they're thinking in their small dog brains, which dogs are pretty smart to their credit, wow, if I pee on this floor every time, they're going to give me food. I like this deal. Then they pee on the floor more. Well, in a weird way, that's kind of what happens when you buy your ex a gift after they've broken up with you. Your logic is, I'll write my ex a note, a really long thought out note. I'll include a gift basket of all their favorite DVDs and, well, how old am I? DVDs. All their favorite video games. Or you know what? I'll buy them an entire PlayStation 5 or PlayStation, I don't know, whatever you're playing, right? I'll buy them a new computer. That will win their love. all you're literally doing is, the fact that you broke up with me is pretty awesome. I'm buying you a gift. Also, the fact that you're not talking to me, keep doing that. Here's a gift. Also, hey, guess what? I'm obsessing about you. Here's a gift. Those are not things that you want to do. Now, the ultimate question you should be asking yourself at this point right now is figuring out whether or not you have a chance of getting your specific ex back in your specific situation, because it varies from situation to situation. Now, luckily for you, on our website, www.exboyfriendrecovery.com, I've put together a special free quiz designed to basically tell you what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back. Now, if you want to take that quiz and you're watching this on YouTube, simply look in the description link below this YouTube video and click the link you see there. It will take you directly to the quiz where you can fill it out and get an idea of what your starting chances are. Also, if you haven't liked, commented, or subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. Every little bit helps. I'll see you next time.